Could it be? Could it be? It is out of here!
And it's a no-hitter! Unbelievable! Ruiz and Halladay embrace!
Champion!
It is bedlam at the bank as Bryce Harper has put the Phillies on top!
We're talking about the Lions here.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Specific Jawns podcast, your elite source of all things Philadelphia Phillies. Got my boys Mike Sambuco and Pat Barker back with me yet again. Another fun week of Phillies baseball. A lot to talk about, a lot to marvel at, frankly, with what's going on this past week. I'll get right into it. We had two series against division rivals, a 4-gamer against the Washington Nationals, 3 games against the New York Mets. Came out of that little stretch with a winning record again. We are now 10 games above 500. About 10 games above 500. 20 games above 500 in the Donnie Baseball era, after being 10 games below in the Topper era. 38-18 under Don Mattingly. But this last week, we really, I think, hit a new gear, and it all starts with the drama down in D.C. I mean, you want to talk about an up-and-coming team in the Washington Nationals, a good hitting team, one of the top hitting teams in baseball. Again, young, fiery, scrappy, that kind of team you really want to root for if they're not your division rival. But we went up against them and just tore their hearts out. Just a week of just devastating that fan base, dry as they are. And a team that, we sent right back to 500. They felt like they were getting some mojo going into the playoffs, into a playoff run. I think we killed them. But let's quickly recap what we saw in that series. And then, guys, we'll just get your takes on what we saw there, just your favorite moments. 3 games in a row, we beat them Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday in just utterly dramatic fashion, in a way that hasn't been the norm for Phillies baseball the past couple years. Even though they're a winning team, this type of excitement is not something I think we're used to. I think that'd be a fair assessment. The first game on Tuesday, Jesus Luzardo gives up 5 earned runs, not feeling great. We end up with a Brandon Marsh 2-run shot that gets us right back into it. It ping-pongs. I think there were 5 lead changes in that game. Another Bryson Stott 3-run bomb. End up being down to our last strike in the 9th, and erupt for an 8-run 9th inning. We end up beating them 14-9. Just an incredible, just fun game, no matter what side you were rooting for. Just good for baseball. Moving on to the next night, a 5-4 victory in which Aaron Nola actually looked strong, 2 earned runs through 5 innings. Ended up being another one where we're down to our absolute final strike. And who comes up to pinch hit but our newly acquired Derek Hill hits another clutch home run on our last strike, a 2-run bomb to erase a 1-run deficit and give us the lead, and we do close that one out 5-4. And then Thursday, the game we think we've already torn their hearts out 2 games in a row. We got Sanchez on the hill. We're going to close this out and just walk away feeling pretty good about ourselves. Chris Sanchez doesn't have a good outing. 5 earned runs, labors through 5 innings. I'm actually shocked that Mattingly didn't pull him earlier in that game. He just did not have it. But yet again, we erase a 5-0 deficit. A huge go-ahead home run from Bryce Harper late in the game, and Derek Hill, yet again, a 3-run shot to complete the sweep. It was just a hell of a run. Guys, how were you feeling during any of those games? I mean, that was an experience as a fan.
So I had a fun watching experience on Tuesday on that first game that you mentioned. Lauren, my wife, was trying to get me to change the channel when the Phillies were down big. And then I said, no, just give me another inning. They're going to get back into it. Didn't really actually believe that at the time, but little by little, starting with the Marsh home run, then Then they eventually do tie it on the 2-run shot in the ninth. Then it turns into a situation where Duran's warming up. They keep going, keep scoring runs. After the Stott home run, Hill hits one, and then it's a blowout, just like you would have never expected. And then the same thing happens on Thursday. That's 2 times in one series where Duran's warming up in the ninth and doesn't need to go out there because they've expanded the lead. It's fun to watch. You don't really expect that out of this baseball team, but that's what happens, I guess, when you face the Nationals bullpen in 2026.
Hey, listen, I think of myself as a pretty good father. I know it sounds like I'm not answering your question, but I promise I will be. My son just turned 9. My daughter will be a year on August 1st. And I'm not saying I'm not a psycho, but I hide that from them. I generally do a pretty good job. The biggest compliment I can give this Phillies team, especially over this last week, is they caused me to scare my children multiple times. I'm not good at that. I'm not good at being the intimidating dad because my kids don't take me seriously. They know that I would never hurt them at all, emotionally, physically, or otherwise. But when the Phillies are doing those things, I become a different person. I'm loud. I am unpredictable. I'm scary to them. And I think that gives me an edge that I've sorely been missing for the last decade or so of Phillies baseball. We were on our way to my son's gymnastics class on the first game, and as we were getting off the exit, Marsh hit the home run. And yeah, I missed the first 10 minutes of gymnastics. You're on your own, little guy. You get in there. You know what to do. You know how there's a trampoline. You've been on the trampoline. You don't need my help. Get on the trampoline. You got this. I will be in the car seeing this thing through to its conclusion. The next night, the Derek Hill home run, I screamed so loud I made my daughter cry. My wife wasn't happy, and I felt bad at the moment, but in retrospect, I'm like, I need her to understand who I am going into this whole thing. And I think now she does. So I want to thank the Phillies for exposing my family to the psycho that lives within me. I haven't had a chance to let that out a lot. It's been over the last few years, even when there are exciting times, it's usually covered by a coat of resignation that it won't amount to anything tangible, or that it doesn't feel like, oh, this is who this team is. It's like they had one of these nights. This week it felt like this is their identity now. That's who this team is. And I am dangerously close to going all in with that and ruining the next few months of my life.
Yeah, that's the vibe that I think we're all feeling. And look, this is what we pay for. This is what this team, this ownership pays for, is for us to mash in the hot weather and start putting up crooked numbers and getting the fans excited midsummer. I mean, we're lucky that we have a team that can do that because, like I said, the Nats can mash. Their bullpen is absolute ass. And we're lucky that we have a team that can put a run like this together. For as negative as we've tended to be this year, especially thinking that the roster's stagnant, etc. I mean, this is when you get to enjoy it, and there's no reason not to. It's fun baseball, and there's a lot to look forward to if things continue to go as they are. Speaking of which, they did continue to go as they were after that 3 comeback win streak. We went up into New York and played the Mets. He hated Mets. Friday, Saturday, Sunday came out with 2 wins in that series. The game on Friday was just an absolute gem from Zach Wheeler. Love seeing that guy give it back to the Mets. He can never do that enough for me. The way he was dismissed and treated when he was with that team. Definitely found the promised land here. That was a nice 2-1 victory, a tight little 2-1 victory against a hated rival. Just a good win. Second game, I can't be too mad about, because that's the game where, hey, it's going to be an experiment every fifth day for this team, for at least the next month, through the trade deadline. That's our bullpen game, or we'll try out a new starter from AAA. And that night it was Alan Ranhel, who's I never really paid that much attention to him until this particular start. I mean, he's got a funky delivery, interesting makeup, just a quirky type fifth starter. I really want to root for him. Really held his own for 5 innings, and then had a few bad breaks where he did give up 4. I think he left 2 runners on. It was he had only given up 2 when he was pulled, and those 2 inherited runners scored. But a 6-2 loss in a game like that, that's going to happen. And then Sunday, we're right back at it, where a little bit of a ping pong match. Big bomb from Kyle Schwarber. Luzardo had a no decision, but looked relatively strong. Close it out with a 5-4 win, and we walk away with a hell of a week, like I said. Here's the thing that I want to talk about. We always have to temper our expectations, even though we're going to enjoy it. Look, as we said, the Nationals bullpen is terrible. The Mets are the Mets, especially this year. Is this just a case of them doing what we kind of expect them to do, which is hit bad pitching? This is just them doing what the roster is constructed to do, to find a stray fastball here and there and just hit it out of the ballpark. Is it all a gilded run of success? Or are you seeing other things with this team, and I have a few things that I can add there for sure, that would indicate this isn't just beating up on bad teams and bad pitching?
I think it's definitely more the former than the latter. The other piece of the equation that nobody's really talked about, because it's not Phillies specific, but offense across Major League Baseball went up substantially in June compared to April and May, and players have come out and said that they changed the ball. It's one of my biggest pet peeves with Major League Baseball. I would almost be okay with, I have less of a problem, for instance, with the steroid era than I do with Major League Baseball changing the dimensions of the ball and not telling anybody. To me, that's crazy. The fact that you are rigging the thing to manipulate the offense to go up or down depending on where you want it to go takes out some of the competitiveness for me. Now, it certainly coincided with the Phillies all of a sudden remembering how to hit. I don't think that's a coincidence, but they're playing with the same ball as the other team, so I don't think it's unfair. But I think it's more a product of that and facing just genuinely some absolute dog shit pitching versus anything else. I do think that psychologically there is a big benefit to posting these kind of wins against anybody, because now in your head you start to convince yourself, it's like a placebo effect. We can do this. We've done this before. You haven't done it against top tier pitching, but that doesn't matter as long as you think you can. That's really all that matters. So I do think there's a benefit to it, and I am tempering my expectations, but I think they can carry the momentum forward. But I didn't really see anything in particular that made me think, that gave me a lot of confidence that if they have to do this tomorrow against a top-tier bullpen in October, that they'll be able to.
I agree. I don't think there is that level of comfort for me just yet in this offense. I still think they're a big bat short, maybe 2 pieces in the lineup short in October, and I still think that's going to be their Achilles heel unless they address that at the trade deadline. You look at what they did yesterday, even in the game that they won. I mean, let's look at the whole series against the Mets. They didn't really face any good pitching and still struggled to score runs in 2 of the 3 games. In the 3rd game, they got shut down by Kodai Senga, who's been horrendous this year in the second half of that game. Schwarber did hit the 2-run home run to put them on top for good, but, I mean, he shut us down, Blake. And he's been, I mean, coming into the game, his ERA was over 10. Anyway, I think we get these ebbs and flows of a season in the regular season, and you're going to face good pitching, you're going to face bad pitching, and the offense kind of flows with it. Until they do it in a consistent manner against good teams with good pitching staffs, I'm not going to believe that they can do it until in October.
Yeah, that's all fair. Just a couple things I do want to point out that we might not have expected at this point in the season, at least not, when the flip over to Mattingly happened. Brandon Marsh, and actually as I bring him up, just hit his 14th home run against the Pirates. We're down 8-6 right now. Weird little game that's going on there if you're following. Aaron Nola got absolutely shelled after we went up 5-0, but we'll see if it's another photo finish again. But Marsh is the real deal. I mean, there's just no question at this point. Even after our last pod, I was thinking he might just be hot. This all-star thing might be getting his juices going even more. I'm just really paying attention to him at the plate. The guy is hitting to all parts of the field with power. Just a good barrel through the zone that we never saw out of him, as well as a decent eye. It's impressive. It's like all the pieces have come together for him at the plate in a way that it doesn't look streaky. He's not hitting bad balls. He's making good decisions, getting good swings. I think we have a surprise all-star in the outfield where we thought we had absolutely nothing in the outfield going into the season. So that's a big turn from where we thought we were in April. Not that I ever want to get excited about a random acquisition early in the season, just basically a role player. But look, a guy like Derek Hill is something that when you are a contender, when you have a championship run, you point to a guy like that. There's always a guy like that in your story. And he feels that way at this point. Could change, of course, but I look at a guy like Derek Hill the way I kind of looked at Edmundo Sosa when we picked him up. The guy just has just some juice to him. It just feels like he when he's in the game, you're excited. Anything can happen. He's a very incomplete player, but he brings that energy to an otherwise pretty stiff team of accomplished veterans. In the way that a shiny new rookie would do that. We don't have that right now. So that's what we're seeing out of 30-year-old Derek Hill. 840-something OPS since he joined the Phillies, and huge moments so far. The couple home runs I mentioned earlier, and one of the best catches I've ever seen on Friday night to rob Juan Soto of I think a 2-run home run. I mean, the guy, that's not a lucky catch. That's a guy knowing what the hell he's doing, knowing exactly how many steps it is to the wall, knowing how to time his leap. I mean, that kind of stuff holds you on a roster. And you got the guys clearly excited about him. So I just like that we have a guy like that. An incomplete player, a role player that has the rest of the guys excited. And that's something that we did not have, until we acquired him. So that just feels like, another step in the right direction towards a legit playoff run.
I also want to give my praises to that catch. I mean, I did not get to see it live on Friday night, but my phone was blowing up like, oh my God, you got to see this. I watch it and I'm still shocked at knowing it's happening. That's how great of a catch it was. And then on Sunday, he nearly robs the A.J. Ewing home run. And in the back of my mind, as the ball's in the air, I'm thinking, oh, could he do this again? Like, that would have been insane. But it's great to see somebody who's got good defense has been able to come through in the clutch, and you need guys like that. And he reminds me, I was actually going back even further in the sense, and this is an infielder comp, but it kind of reminds me of the Greg Dobbs. He just always came through in those pinch hitting situations, and maybe that is Derek Hill's role once we get to October if he doesn't get the starts. But again, just remarkable catch on Friday, remarkable addition, one that I don't think any of us really saw coming, at least coming through this early since the transaction occurred.
That's a great comp, Mike. Greg Dobbs absolutely was that guy on that 08 team that I was just kind of describing the form of. Pat, what were you going to say?
I mean, I got to give Dombrowski credit. We take a lot of shots at him on this podcast, and the majority of them, I would say, are well deserved. But credit where it's due, he got this guy for nothing, and championship teams get guys for nothing. They get guys who, and this is the deal with Marsh as well. These guys are exceeding expectations. I think with this current Phillies roster, I had lost hope that anybody would exceed expectations this year. I thought everybody was going to play to the level that we've already seen or, below it. Marsh, this is exactly what you need. You need some guys to break through and find another level. I thought that maybe Stott would. To this point, he has not. He's shown flashes, but he's shown flashes for 4 years now. I need a little bit more than that. There's been flashes from a lot of guys, but Marsh is consistent. What I love about Derek Hill is the hunger. There's no complacency for him. There's no, we'll see. Well, the platitudes that you get from a Schwarber. It's 162 games and you want to play good, right? But you just got to go out there, and if you have a bad one, flush it. And if you have a good one, you don't get too high or too. Derek Hill's no, I need every inning that you put me on that field. I need to prove that I need more of those innings. You need guys like that. There haven't been a lot of hungry guys, in my opinion, on this team. And Derek Hill is exactly that. He's energy, and he's, a plus defender. It seems like at all three outfield positions. I had him pegged as a corner outfielder who, was miscast in center field. That's not how somebody who is miscast in center field approaches that ball. Whether you make the catch or not, just the way he approached it tells me that he knew exactly what he was doing. He's high energy. So yes, those two guys specifically, Carl, I agree with you. I think we're going to ultimately need a little bit more of that. And I think there's a real chance for Dombrowski at the deadline, much the way he did, to give him more credit, with Harrison Bader and Johan Duran last year. Those were both plus pickups. He has not been good with the big ticket items recently, but sort of these players on the margins, he's been killing it, and credit to him on that. And the Garcia injury, I hate to say it, but so far it looks like kind of a blessing in disguise, because Derek Hill offers you a lot more flexibility and a lot more options than Garcia ever did.
Yeah, how ironic would it be that, we're essentially spending $30 million for nothing between Castellanos and Garcia, and the guy that ends up producing better than both of them beyond our expectations is a former first-round draft pick, with Detroit.
On his 7th team.
Yeah. He's 30 years old, and I really like the guy. I mean, if you watch some interviews with him, he just seems like a joy to be around. Whether that's just he's matured into that after floundering early in his career, whatever it is, you want to give this guy a shot. You want to see him succeed. So, I'm thrilled to see him so far. I really hope that it continues, and that's one less piece we have to worry about.
That end, we're going to have to institute a toothpick rule for the Jawns next Monday during our first playoff game. Everybody is chomping on a toothpick during their ABs.
Love it. I want to, speaking of, I think we'll pivot. I had some other directions I wanted to go with that. But while we're on the roster, holes conversation, really interesting comment from Ruben Amaro, of all people, someone whose roster building acumen is never something I'd want to point toward. But he had an interesting take that a lot of people were all over him for, in which he described, his approach, or maybe the best approach at the trade deadline, would not be for something like a fifth starter necessarily. He acknowledged that we need a right-handed bat, but there's not many out there. But the big splash he was interested in seeing was a setup man. I found that fascinating, and one of the options he put out there was, if you can't make a big move for a setup man, for he mentioned Aroldis Chapman, a couple other guys, Not that that's even a setup man, but someone in front of Duran. But if you went with a fifth starter and slid someone like a Luzardo into the bullpen in the postseason, just for the postseason, but that was the part that he saw where we had the most need that we could make the most of a delta in the current roster at the deadline. That bridge to Duran from our two big starters especially. What do you guys think about that? I'm not even going to put my own 2 cents about it. I just thought it was what an idea to talk about on this podcast.
He had me in the first half. I'm not going to lie. I think he was on to something, and then I think he went, off the deep end with the Luzardo thing. That's not the answer.
Sounds like his whole tenure as a GM, but go on.
Yeah, exactly. And look, he understood what he was, theoretically how a GM is supposed to work and what you're supposed to do. He just also inherited a team where it's like, yeah, they're all kind of beloved in this city, and retaining them is the easiest path of least resistance. And he was like, oh, well, if I take this core and I add, Halladay and Lee and all these guys, like, surely we'll win. It's not a bad idea in theory. So I think he gets a lot of shit that maybe he doesn't, fully deserve. Not saying he was great, but, whatever. We're not getting on that right now. The point is, he's not wrong in that the fifth starter is a luxury at this point. And I do think these regular season games mean something because they are 3 back of the Braves right now. And if you look at their toughest possible opponents in the playoffs, it's the Dodgers and it's the Brewers. And if you're a wild card team, you have to play a 2-game series where anything can happen. And you probably have to burn Wheeler and Sanchez to win that series, and then immediately go in with your 3 and 4 starters on the road to LA or Milwaukee. So there's great value in winning the division, which is within reach very much right now. They're only 3 back. I didn't think they'd get to this point. They're at this point. Now they have to try to win the division. So having a fifth starter would help out a lot with that. But the bottom line is, once they get to the playoffs, they're not throwing 5 starters out there. I'd love to have the depth in case of injury, God forbid. But if they have 5 healthy starters, the 5th one is not going to factor in as much during the playoffs. So it's kind of a nice to have, not a need to have. I'd love to have a big right-handed bat, but like he said, it's a seller's market on those. I don't know how you'll be able to fill that hole necessarily. I think the bullpen could be the easiest hole to fill. And when you get to the playoffs, if you can have a killer back end of the bullpen and shorten those games up and make them into 6-inning games with Sanchez and Wheeler starting, half of your games, you're going to be in good shape. People think about the 2008 Phillies and they retroactively envision all these big clutch moments late in the game. That's not what happened. If you go back and look at how they won the vast majority of their games, they got big hits early and then they locked it down because Lidge was lights out, Madsen was lights out, Romero was lights out. The back end of that bullpen was the reason they won the championship. They did just enough early offensively to take the lead, and then those guys held it together. If you could put together a similar type of thing with this starting rotation, you might not need a big bat. A team that puts up 3.5 runs a game might be good enough to win a championship.
I love that, Pat. And I think I mentioned it last pod or maybe the one before that what we have to prepare for in terms of roster building and plate approach in this regular season, assuming we make the postseason, and it would be huge to win the division for the reasons you just described. And Mike, I think you mentioned there's not an off day like there has been in the past between series. So that's going to put us in even more of a hole with our 2 aces. But in the same fashion that, what the Phillies need to do from the offensive side is find that soft middle, that 6th or 7th inning guy before, a well-constructed team like the Dodgers and Brewers, they're going to have really good starting pitching, really good closer. You hope to knock that starter out just early enough to have that not A reliever, maybe a B or a C reliever. We have that soft middle for sure. after our aces, between our aces and Durant. We're not getting what we need out of Kerkering. Shugart, Keller is down. There's just I'm not confident in any of those guys between our aces and Durant to absolutely lock it down the way that you said, Romero and Madsen and Chad Durbin did in '08. So yeah, I mean, it's kind of like fighting fire with fire. It's going to be the same, I think, tactic against teams like the Brewers and Dodgers, who we will face one or both of them if we're going to make a run.
I think it's more prudent to go after an actual bullpen arm and maybe get two guys that, with who we have right now, in October, ride the hot hands. Whoever it is, whether it's Keller, combination of Keller, Kerkering, Alvarado, Meza, Backus. I mean, whoever's hot at the right time is who you're going to rely on. But you got to throw as many darts at that dartboard so that you can compile enough useful arms. I don't think you want to go into a postseason with Seth. I don't know, maybe Seth Johnson could turn into something, but I'm not ready to go down that road. But like a Seth Johnson, Chase Shugart, Backus even. I mean, who are the guys that are going to step up in September, October, who we can rely on? Because right now, the only guy I trust is Durant.
Can I give you my crazy idea? I don't think it's as crazy as Ruben Amaro's idea to turn Luzardo into a bullpen piece. I think Andrew Painter is potentially a future starter on this team. I haven't lost all faith in him as a starter. I'm still hopeful that can happen. I don't think it's going to happen this year, nor do I think that you necessarily need him. The guy throws high 90s. He's got great stuff. He's got no confidence. He's got no approach right now, and he can't control the vast majority of his pitches. If you're a reliever, you don't need all those pitches. You need 2 good pitches. I was also concerned with the plan to just turn him loose unfettered coming off of Tommy John surgery because it was going to be too many innings on his arm, and they were going to have to shut him down or he would become ineffective. At this point, I don't want him starting in AAA. I don't think that he will be back on the Major League roster this year, but if he is, I want it to be as a relief pitcher. I would convert him for the rest of the season into a reliever. I would start throwing him a couple innings a week. I would just tell him, go out there, you're pitching 1 inning, empty the tank, and see if you can unlock something. And maybe it's recency bias because I saw the Dodgers do it out here with Roki Sasaki last year, who was completely shot as a starter. He had no confidence, all the same things you're seeing Painter do. And then they put him in the bullpen and he was Mariano Rivera for a month. Is it crazy to expect that to happen with Painter? Of course. Is it crazy to think that it couldn't? No, I don't. I think it could absolutely happen. And it's worth a try because I don't think you're getting anything out of just starting him every 5th day in AAA. I don't think he's going to help you out in that role this year. So that's my crazy thought. What do you guys think about that?
I love it. I think, honestly, Painter and Seth Johnson, as you mentioned earlier, Mike, I mean, those are 2 guys with really plus fastballs. I mean, both of them touched 99 easily. Both of them, Seth Johnson was a pretty highly touted starter early on. I mean, definitely never took that next step. But the stuff is there. Both of those guys, why not condition them, for this year to be a 1-2 inning guy for this half a season, because that's what the need is on this team. And again, if you're talking about, long term, might not be baseball next year. Plenty of time to turn these guys into whatever they're destined to be in Major League Baseball. But right now, we need every piece we can get. We're trying to win a championship in a very, very tight window. And there's no reason not to take that approach with an Andrew Painter, Seth Johnson, or anyone else that comes up with that type of stuff.
I honestly, I'm fascinated to see what they do with Andrew Painter the rest of this year, whether it's go down the bullpen route or continue on with the starting route. I mean, he did pitch 4 innings. I think it was over the weekend, and was so, had a little control issues. But I don't know if they're gonna put him in the bullpen. Like I could see them go down that route if they're desperate for a bullpen arm at the end of the season because they couldn't accomplish a goal of getting one or two guys for the bullpen through the trade deadline. I could also see them, going down that same path with Gage Wood. I mean, he's been on an innings limit all year, and his innings limit's even lower than Painter's.
Yeah. I'll say one thing about Painter in AAA, whether they're trying to condition him to be a starter again in the near term or not. I want to see him throwing like 65, 70% fastballs. He has to learn how to locate that fastball, or he is useless as a pitcher. I'm sorry. He's not going to turn into a junk ball or anything else. That's what he needs to be. And if he doesn't learn how to locate and be confident in that fastball, I mean, trade him at the deadline. It's just not happening. Moving on, I would say let's talk a little bit about some fun stuff here, namely the upcoming All-Star game. We've got. I can't even keep track of all the shenanigans they do with the fan voting and the different tiers, and you pass through this level and then you're in the short list, etc. But there's some fringe Phillies that are really being talked about a lot right now as potential all-star starters or reserves. And the two I'm going to bring up right away are Bryson Stott and Alec Bohm. We can make this about their cases, or we can make this about what do we think about fan voting in general and how the All-Star game is even approached these days. I have a lot to say about that. I'll let you guys kick off with just your general thoughts and excitements about the All-Star game.
Hey, look, fan voting is a joke. Let's just get that out of the way first. It's a joke. It's always been a joke, and theoretically it should be less of a joke now, because if you remember, and we're all old, we are washed, as the kids say. When I was a kid, if I wanted to vote for the game, I had to go to Veterans Stadium and get a bunch of little, paper ballots and poke holes. And you couldn't see the players' stats. You had no idea how they were performing. So it was a popularity contest, strictly. Now you go online, you can, look at their, exit velocity and launch angle before you vote for them. You could sort it by whatever you want. And yet, with all of the information available, it's still just all Dodgers, Phillies, and Braves. So the thing is a joke. It's always going to be a joke. It's never been more egregious than the year after the Royals won the World Series and the starting lineup in the All-Star game was like 7 Royals and Mike Trout. The thing is broken, but also who cares? That's my counter argument. Who cares? Because you know what else is a joke? The entire rest of the selection process. Pitchers pitch on Sunday, then they can't pitch in the All-Star game. Hey, this guy has a nagging foot thing. He hasn't missed an inning of baseball the entire season, but now he's going to miss the All-Star game. Next thing you know, you're naming 120 guys All-Stars. It doesn't mean anything. I'll never forget going to the All-Star game a few years ago, and in the 9th inning of what, and I know I've said this on the podcast before, but what should be the most important moment of the game, a 1-run game, I am watching Santiago Espinal of the Blue Jays, a utility infielder, go up against David Bednar, the closer for the Pittsburgh Pirates. And I'm like, this is the ultimate showcase. This is the event that when my dad talks about it, it was Bob Gibson going up against Carl Yastrzemski. And that never happened because there was no interleague play. It means nothing. None of this means anything. So yeah, if you're going to have an event that means nothing, sure, Alec Bohm can play. It doesn't mean anything. Who cares? I cannot let my actual baseball fandom and how seriously I treat the game to an embarrassing degree dictate my emotions on this, because I will lose my mind. I have to accept that the game means nothing. It's a joke. It's a farce. And in that, when you're in that position, yeah, I don't know. Put them all in. Who cares?
So the fan voting piece of it that drives me crazy is when somebody who is clearly undeserving gets added to the team as a starter because the fans vote him in, and then somebody who actually is a deserved all-star can't make the roster because of the roster crunch. Right now, there are 6 players that have made the finals of this all-star voting with an OPS under 700, one of which is Alejandro Kirk, who is batting 183 with a 548 OPS. I mean, come on. It just is an absolutely atrocious way to pick what should be an extremely important honor to these players. One that they truly care about and probably will never say how much they care. But when Brandon Marsh was when the whole All-Star game vote piece was brought up to Brandon Marsh, you could just see him light up. Like it means something to him. He wants it. He wants to be a starter or even just make the team. And he deserves it, and he should. Can't say the same about the other two Phillies that made the final vote in Boehm and Stott, but I don't think they're going to end up winning their votes anyway.
Yeah, it tears me into the All-Star game and always has. But this year especially because it's back in Philadelphia. I got to go to the game in '96 when Ricky Bottalico was our one representative. It was just the most probably a top 3 moment of my childhood getting to go to that game and what it meant. I remember, for the summer camp newspaper, I always wrote down my all-star picks and got it published every summer. Like that was a big deal to me. Because I knew like it wasn't just popular. I knew that Carlos Baerga was an up and coming player for the Indians that no one knew about, and you didn't just automatically vote for Roberto Alomar or whoever else. But that was like how it went. The meritocracy, I really feel, is completely gone in the All-Star game. I think that's a damn shame. I think the online voting just ruined it entirely. Was not a fan of online voting to begin with, or not a fan of fan voting to begin with, but that just made it a farce. You're encouraged to vote 5 times a day, all this nonsense. But at the same time, like it's the baseball All-Star game, and it has, a century of lore behind it. I think the first one was in the 30s. And we just have those memories. At least I hope that like the next generation or two will still romanticize it the way we do, or maybe it is being watered down to the point of oblivion, which is really sad to me. But I remember when it mattered. I remember when the league that won got to have home field advantage in the World Series. I thought that was the coolest thing, to even have those types of stakes. That was what? Barker, you don't remember that?
I remember it. I remember it very well because the game ended in a tie. So then they had to get out there and pretend like, oh no, now it means something. And they came up with that thing that nobody except for you fell for. Not one person enjoyed that. It didn't make any sense.
All I know, Pat, is that if that didn't happen, I would not have gotten a chance to see the Phillies win Game 5 of the World Series in 2008. That was what allowed that series to go the way that it did, because Brad Lidge blew his only save in the All-Star game that year, and that's why we didn't have home field advantage. So it still mattered to me.
So Pat, do you prefer the swing off that Schwarber won last year, or do you prefer it end in a tie?
Oh, the swing off was incredible. Absolutely. Yeah, no, the whole game should be the swing off. That was the only good part of the game. Yeah, sure. The rest of it doesn't matter. You're romanticizing this thing in your head that in reality sucks, and it's always sucked. And like, don't get me wrong, I watch it every year, and I love it because I'm a baseball nerd, and I understand all that. I get it, but we have to stop pretending. And this is what they got. This is where Bud Selig backed himself into a corner, because the game ended in a tie, and then everybody, freaked out. And instead of just being like, oh, we'll do a swing off going forward, which would have been the correct solution, he's like, no, we have to show them that it means something. When in reality, I think everybody is fine with the idea that it doesn't mean anything. If it meant something, you would not have Santiago Espinal batting in the 9th inning. It just wouldn't happen. There are 2 masters they have to serve, and one of them is taking all these players for whom Brandon Marsh, this might be the coolest thing that ever happens in his career. And he deserves it, and I want him to enjoy every moment of it. And if he doesn't get voted in as a starter, I don't want him to ride the bench. I want him to come in. I want all these guys to get in the game. But if that is the priority, then we can't pretend that it matters. I just don't understand why we're doing that.
It's all or nothing for you, Pat. I see. If it's not going to mean everything, you go straight to nihilism.
I don't understand how you could live on these 2 planets at the same time and act like it makes sense.
It's baseball. What it does. And Is there any case for a guy like Bryson Stott, Mike? You follow this a lot more closely, but like we know Alec Boehm doesn't belong on the All-Star team. Is there a world where Bryson Stott is an All-Star in 2026?
No, it's not going to happen, nor should it. It's to me, it's clearly an easy pick when you're looking at the statistics between Albies and him in the final two, but then you start thinking about reserve slots and Bryce Terang is Luis Arias. I mean, it's clearly going to be somebody other than Bryson Stott at second base.
Fair. My last All-Star question, and we brought this up a little bit before, is Zach Wheeler going to be boxed out of this one? Because I feel like he deserves to be on an All-Star team the way he has come back from that injury, the way he's performed. He's still an absolute dog out there. But I feel like the numbers are against him in the NL this year. What do you think?
There's no chance he doesn't make the team. He's going to make the team. Is he one of the... I mean, look, how many starters are you going to have? 8? 8 starters make the team? Something like that? Is he one of the best 8 starters in the National League? Yeah, I think so. And I know it's been a historic year for starters in the National League. But also, you got to remember, some of them are going to pitch the Sunday before. Some of them are going to have managers who are like, hey, I don't want this guy blowing his arm. We're trying to win a World Series. There are always a bunch of guys that drop out. And if Zach Wheeler wants to pitch in the game, Zach Wheeler will pitch in the game. I would be stunned if he does not get selected for the All-Star game in Philadelphia, even after you have all the dropouts.
Well, if I'm not mistaken, a year or two ago, he was one of the dropouts, and I was pretty upset about that, but we'll see. Am I misremembering that, Mike?
So I honestly, I don't remember either way. Coincidentally, he is on a path to potentially pitch the Sunday before the All-Star game. So I'd be interested to see. We'll have a better idea once we get to Saturday, because that Friday is the last off day before the All-Star game for the Phillies. So they can really tell us in advance if he's going to be lined up or not. So he pitches on Wednesday. By the way, Wednesday is Skeens versus Wheeler. Should be a fun matchup on Wednesday the 1st. But after that, does he pitch? How do they factor in the off day and determines where he's going to pitch next? But he could pitch on, I believe, Monday on regular rest or Tuesday with an extra day in there. If he pitches Tuesday, it would line up perfectly for Sunday before the All-Star game.
There we have it. So the Phillies did just lose to the Pirates, I believe 11-7. We are now 3.5 games back from the Braves. We actually have played 3 more games than the Braves have at this point, I believe. So a little bit of leveling out to do. We got, wrap up the series against the Pirates, and then we have the Royals this weekend. Parting shot here. Where are we in the standings when we next meet a week from now?
Braves have, a series at home against the Cardinals. And who do they have after that? The Mets. I got to think that this is going to be a tough week for the Phillies to really gain ground. I think the Cardinals are turning back into the pumpkin at midnight. I don't think they were ever that good. I think the fact that they've been able to hang on in the wild card race through smoke and mirrors is not indicative of who they actually are. I think they are a bad team. And I think the Mets are a very bad team. And all 6 of those games are at home. So I got to think that if we reconvene here next week and the Phillies are still within 5, I'm going to personally feel pretty good about that. Assuming they lose tonight and they go down 3.5, I think in a best case scenario, we're meeting again next week and they're within 5 games. I'd love to be wrong. I'd love for the Braves to continue to fall off a little bit, but 6 at home against the Cardinals and Mets feels like a pretty good homestand to me.
Yeah, and they have a really interesting stretch right after the All-Star game, the Phillies do. I mean, you start a home series with the Mets, which did at the beginning of the season look a lot tougher than it does now, but then they go Dodgers, Yankees back-to-back series, so they're coming in out of the All-Star break with a really difficult stretch that could tell us a lot about this team.
Yeah, both of those series are at home. Very excited to go to as many of those as I can. But yeah, I really just want to see them keep motoring through the All-Star break and hit those two series will be pivotal. I think we'll really know where they are, what they're made of, and they occur right before the trade deadline, which I think is perfectly timed for us to find out who we are and what we need and see what pushes Dave Dombrowski in any direction.
Can I just vent for a second? What happened to July 31st trade deadlines? I mean, why are we picking random days in the beginning of August now?
Great question. I was wondering that myself.
I think part of it is, and I could be wrong about this, but didn't they do away with the non-waiver deadline? They used to have two different deadlines, July 31st and August 31st.
They did, but it's still going to be July 31st. It's tradition.
I hear you. I think
it's worse than getting rid of the DH in the NL.
Oh boy, we don't have time for this discussion right now. But no, I mean, I think honestly, pushing it back a little bit is when you have this many wild cards, there are so few teams that know that they're going to be selling at this point in the season. And the teams that know they're going to be selling don't have a lot to sell because they're very bad. So I think giving it an extra, even a few days or a couple weeks or whatever, is beneficial for more kind of like moving parts. But I agree, it should be on a set day every year. Is that if they are truly picking random dates, which I was unaware of, that vary from season to season, that's crazy.
The other interesting thing is that the season ends on September 27th because the season started so early I'd say like the 26th of March or something along those lines. So the time after the trade deadline is already 2 months, and now it's even condensed even more than that. So it's not going to impact the regular season as much as it has in years past.
Well, I'm sure these are all things that they'll get fixed during a flawless and non-contentious collective bargaining agreement in the offseason.
And with that, Rob Manfred says we are done podcasting for the day. All right, guys, good job tonight. Looking forward to another positive overall podcast next week. Have a great rest of your week. Go Phils. Happy 4th.
Go Phils.